Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we are going to be looking at the year of 2022 and what Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space is expected to do before this year is over. We're going to look at 5 major categories. First and foremost, we're going to look at the technical analysis on the 3 daily chart and weekly chart of Bitcoin. Then we're going to look at country adoption of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Then we're going to look at institutional adoption, then economic pressures and adoption. And then we're going to look at one of the most important investments you will ever make, which is education. We're going to be talking about all of that and more in today's video. So if you're interested in seeing the causes that are going to affect the price of Bitcoin moving into the end of the year, then you have just found the right video. Before we get started, if you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. But without much further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. All right, guys, so we're going to start out here on the 3 daily chart looking at one of my favorite technical indicators called Lux Algo. And the reason we're looking at Lux Algo is because I want you to know something. Out on the 3 daily chart, almost every single time in history that we have seen a confirmed buy signal, I talked about this in a previous video, we see a major rally on Bitcoin on average between 50 and 100%. I'm not going to go back and show you all of the confirmed buy signals in the history of Bitcoin's 3 daily chart, but I'll go ahead and tell you I've done the historical analysis. There are 12, not counting the one that just came in, which we're about to talk about, and 11 of them resulted in a rally. The one of 12 that did not result in a rally only resulted in a 7% decline in the price action. So when we see a buy signal on the 3 daily chart on Bitcoin, as we have just seen, that is a very major sign that we could be about to see a major rally on Bitcoin. Out on the weekly chart, we have not yet seen a buy signal, but if we're able to get above $55,000, I believe about $55,000, then we will likely see a confirmed buy signal out here. We've only seen a few of those in recent memory. These are the 3 that we can see right here. All 3 of them led to major rallies, so be on the lookout for that. I also want to show you the RSI. Out here on the 3 daily chart, you can see RSI is currently sitting at 58. That means that we are breaking into bullish territory on the 3 daily chart. And if we look at the weekly chart, you can see that RSI is starting to break to the upside as well, sitting currently at 53, meaning that the weekly chart is in bullish territory. Now, I also want to show you something else, and it would be MACD. Notice here on the weekly chart for Bitcoin, we're about to have and are currently having a bullish MACD cross. That is the first bullish MACD cross that we have seen on the Bitcoin weekly chart in quite some time. The last one was back here in August of 2021, and that resulted in a 46% rally to the upside. The previous MACD cross bullish was back here, and that resulted in a 500% movement to the upside. So the fact that we're seeing a bullish MACD cross out here is very bullish indeed. The next thing I want to show you is also the Bollinger Bands. If we take a look at the Bollinger Bands, you can see that they're starting to constrict on themselves on the weekly chart, but we've also just gotten through the baseline here, which is the 20 weekly simple moving average. That's huge because every time we've done that in past, the most recent 2 examples being right here and right here, we've gone on a major run. So again, I tell you, these are very bullish signals that we're witnessing, and even on the 3 daily chart, you can see we're currently pushing the resistance of the Bollinger Bands, and the Bollinger Bands, both the top band and the bottom band, are now starting to curve to the upside, indicating more bullish pressure coming up in the next couple of months. Number 2, national adoption. What we need to talk about here are about 4 different countries, namely El Salvador. El Salvador, as you know, fully adopted and formally adopted Bitcoin last year. It actually took place in early September of 2021. Ever since Tesla and El Salvador adopted Bitcoin last year, we have seen a lot of mainstream attention on Bitcoin in the cryptocurrency markets, and it's likely that we're going to see even more countries adopting Bitcoin this year, or at least beginning the process thereof. Earlier in the year, we looked at how Honduras and Malaysia were potentially going to be adopting Bitcoin and cryptocurrency with friendly leaders to the crypto space in their nations. Currently, that seems like that's not going to happen, but the seed has been planted in those nations along with many others. One more country that is acting is South Korea. South Korea just elected a crypto-friendly president who vows to deregulate the digital asset industry. If you'll remember, for all of my crypto OGs back to 2017, there used to be something called the kimchi premium, which was the price of Bitcoin in South Korea. For whatever reason, it normally was about 2 or 3% higher than Bitcoin anywhere else in the world. So what you could do is you could buy Bitcoin in the United States on a US exchange, go to a South Korean exchange, sell it, pocket 2%, and then go back and do it again. And through arbitrage, you can make a profit. Then in 2017, it might have been early 2018, I believe it was the end of 2017, South Korea made it so that any cryptocurrency exchanges had to get a South Korean social security number for you to be able to operate on them. So South Korea effectively shut down the rest of the world from operating on their exchanges. That's just one symptom of a deeper root. That is, South Korea has a very, very, very heavy digital regulation around Bitcoin, but it seems like this new president may be starting to deregulate the cryptocurrency industry, as he is very, very friendly to that project. And the last thing I'll say on the national level is that regulation in the United States, the European Union, and around the world is starting to become a lot clearer. That's not to say that it is becoming better. That's not to say that it's becoming more bullish, but it is starting to become more clear. We even saw this just a couple of days ago when Bitcoin was essentially banned from being used in private transactions in the European Union, effective in 2024. I laugh at the European Union and wonder how they're ever going to be able to enforce that, but the fact is major countries, and companies around the world are becoming much more clear on how they're going to regulate and handle cryptocurrencies, which leads us into our third topic, institutional adoption. You see, for institutions to formally and officially adopt Bitcoin, they need to understand how they are going to be treated by the tax man. They need to understand how they're going to be treated by the police officer. They need to understand how they're going to be treated by international treaties and corporate relations and different structures around the world. The law, the regulation, it needs to be clear for companies and institutions to work in the space. Now, we've seen major institutions step into the cryptocurrency space, but I first want to start with one institution that actually was built inside of cryptocurrency, and it was founded by a man named Do Kwon. He's the cryptocurrency billionaire that founded Terra Luna, and he is attempting to make Luna and its foundation the biggest Bitcoin holder in the world other than Satoshi Nakamoto himself. Do Kwon and the foundation has been buying between 2,000 and 3,000 Bitcoin a day, getting up to over 30,000 Bitcoin when just a couple of weeks ago the foundation was only holding 10,000. Their aim is to hold over $10 billion worth of Bitcoin at current prices. Now, moving on, it's funny because Terra Luna and their foundation and their billionaire Do Kwon may be about to be getting into a race to the top on Bitcoin holding, because MicroStrategy founder and CEO Michael Saylor, who I just interviewed a couple of weeks ago, check out that video over on the channel, just took out a $205 million Bitcoin-backed loan to buy more Bitcoin. So essentially, they are leverage trading an investment using Bitcoin as collateral to buy more Bitcoin to hold into the future. The reason this is so important is because essentially what MicroStrategy is doing is saying, we want to make sure that our money is not being completely evaporated by inflation over the course of the next 100 years. We want to make sure that our money is growing over the course of the next 100 years. It even says it in this article a little bit lower, where Michael Saylor has talked about how they want to make sure that their cash is not a liability, but instead it is being converted into an asset, and that's exactly what happens when you're able to put it into Bitcoin. His theory is that if they spend even 10% on interest, which, by the way, this was an interest-only loan they acquired, if they spend 10% a year on interest, it's very likely that just by holding Bitcoin and being a hedge against inflation, you're going to make more than 10%. So MicroStrategy and their subsidiary that just purchased the Bitcoin, MacroStrategy, great name, by the way, Michael, they believe that if they hold Bitcoin, even if it's on a loan, even if it's backed by a bank and collateralized, then that is going to be an investment that will be worth the return in the future. Major institutions stepping into the cryptocurrency space are a big part of the reason why Bitcoin has grown so much and why its adoption and its trust around the world has grown so much as well. Now, one of the final things I want to say here on the institutional level, which I just talked about, but I want to reiterate, is that regulation is helping to soothe concerns in the corporate world. We've just seen a rumor coming around that Apple might soon be integrating Apple Pay Bitcoin payments through the Strike app because of the fact that Jack Mallers just tweeted a bunch of stuff about Apple, different rumors going around. Apple could very soon be getting into a big payment bidding war between itself and Google Pay, two of the biggest payment processors in the world outside of MasterCard and Visa. You could see, starting this year, a payment processing war between Google and Apple, two of the most powerful companies on the planet. If that started, it would be very, very bullish for Bitcoin. But let's move on to number 4. Economic pressure. As you all know, it is very, very sad, and we are praying that this will end immediately, but there is conflict in Europe. This has caused a major drop in the United States stock market. It has started to recover. However, it does still implicate many things for the economy. Gas prices are up. Global supply chains are disrupted. If you didn't know, Ukraine was actually one of the largest agricultural producers in the entire European Union. European Union is having a difficult time getting natural gas because they were mostly importing from Russia. There's a lot of supply chain logistics issues that were just starting to get fixed from the pandemic that are now back, and that is causing disruption in the economy. And that leads me to one of the more important and one of the really sad things about Bitcoin in 2022, and that is that we're probably going to see a lot of these institutions, MicroStrategy, Apple, Facebook to a bigger extent, maybe Google, getting into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, Amazon, Netflix. We could see these major companies stepping into Bitcoin this year, but they would be stepping into Bitcoin during a year which the average Joe that has a net worth of maybe $50,000 to $100,000 or maybe only $10,000, they're just trying to put food on the table. They are feeling the pressure of rising gas prices, of inflation, which we're about to talk about, and they're not going to be able to buy buy into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies because they're trying to make sure that they can feed their families. So that's one thing that you may see happen as well in 2022 is the fact that institutions are going to gobble up a lot of Bitcoin. The families, the average Joes of the world might not be able to get that much, and then we might actually see a wealth gap start to form in the cryptocurrency space between the institutions and the average Joe. Now, the good news is if that does occur, because of the nature of Bitcoin, that wealth that is in the hands of the institutions is naturally going to trickle its way back down to the average person because that is how Bitcoin was designed. It was designed to be decentralized. It's very, very difficult for any corporation, any company to hold on to Bitcoin too long because as it appreciates in price, it just gets very, very tempting to sell it. So even if there is a wealth disparity that starts to build in 2022, it likely won't be permanent, which is a good thing. One other thing that is relatively good for Bitcoin, although bad for the average Joe, is the fact that inflation is starting to get completely and totally out of control. CPI data in February came out at 7.9%. That was from three sources. One said 6%, the other two said 12%. And what that did is we averaged it down. The problem is inflation is probably more like 20 or 30% if you really take a hard look at the way cost of living is going up. If you look at the real estate market, inflation is taking a major, major run right now. That's not a great thing for the US dollar, but it's a beautiful thing for Bitcoin because it just proves the reason Bitcoin needs to exist in the first place, which is to be a hedge and a hardening against that which is inflation. But now on the flip side, the way the Federal Reserve is attempting to attack inflation is by raising interest rates. This is happening more than likely at least 8 times over the course of the rest of this year. We just saw interest rates rise by 25 basis points, and we could see them rise by as many as 50 or 100 basis points, that's 0.5% or 1%, at the next Federal Reserve meeting, the FOMC meeting, in the next month. If that occurs, that could shock the market, scaring the average Joe out of Bitcoin back into what they perceive as safer investments. I wouldn't call the stock market a safer investment, but they might be scared out into safer investments such as real estate or the stock market. I would actually say that this could be a bad thing in the short term, but a good thing in the long term, because the more turmoil happens to the US dollar, the more and more people will want to invest in Bitcoin, which is where they should have their money in the first place if they want to hold that value into the future. And last but not least, number 5, education. We need to talk about this one. As you guys know, we just announced Club DeFi. We are a company and a culture and a community that believes very, very strongly in education. That's why everything we do with the intent to educate you so that when you go out and you evangelize Bitcoin, you don't just send them this video and say, hey, look, this is why Bitcoin is going to do relatively well in 2022. We want you to understand Bitcoin so well that you could use this video or other content that we've made as supporting resources and materials, but we want you to know how to put it into your own words. We want you to know how to think for yourself. We never want to do your thinking for you. We want to make sure that you're able to be independent so that you're able to challenge us critically and we're able to come together and through consensus build an idea of what we should do next. Education is remarkably important. And in 2022, some major things are going to happen. Number 1, I think this is going to be a pretty big thing for the cryptocurrency space. Club DeFi is launching, and we really do believe that that is actually going to have an impact on thousands and thousands, if not tens and hundreds of thousands of lives over the next year and on into the next decade. That, I do believe, will actually have a pretty big impact on Bitcoin over the next 10 years, as I believe Club DeFi will become the leading cryptocurrency educational platform in this entire $2 trillion industry. That's how much we believe in it. However, the other thing I want to mention on the education front is the need. Why do we need cryptocurrency education so much? Well, last year when everybody was coming into the cryptocurrency space, a lot of those people that came in are now not here because they got into crypto and they got scammed either from straight up scams, such as the Michael Saylor interviews you see on YouTube with 40,000 followers, 40,000 viewers, which are all bots saying, give us 0.1 Bitcoin, we'll give you back 0.2. A lot of people got scammed. A lot of people also invested in different meme coins because they thought that they were going to go on a 100,000% rally again because they simply have not been educated on the economics of cryptocurrency tokens. So they don't understand that that is not a good idea and it's very impractical for that to happen. So education and lack thereof has led to many people coming into the cryptocurrency space, getting hurt and then leaving. And we're now going to have to work very hard to get those people back in crypto because they have a sour taste in their mouth. That's going to be a big part of what you're going to see in 2022. A lot of very cynical people that got burnt in 2021 not wanting to come back, and they might need a couple of years to really soften their hearts back up to crypto so we can bring them back in. That's going to be a big part of this year. And finally, guys, I just want to reiterate this. Education is key. Everything I'm saying here is for the sake of educating you on some of the things that you are going to see happen over the course of 2022. Help yourself to help others by educating yourself, by subscribing to channels like ours, by subscribing to other channels that you love here on YouTube, learning more And when Club DeFi officially launches, make sure to sign up for that because we want to help to educate you as well. Education is the gate and key to the future that you want in cryptocurrency. Knowledge is power. That is absolutely true. So make sure you're educating yourself. My outlook for 2022, it's bullish. I think Bitcoin will hit a new all-time high this year if it is able to get above about $50,000 to $55,000 and stay up there for a month or two. That's the caveat that I'm going to say there. If Bitcoin is able to do that, then I could see an all-time high run this year. Although even if it doesn't get there at this point, I am still feeling relatively confident that that is going to happen. However, just be understanding that this year is going to be marked by quite a lot of uncertainty. It's going to be marked by a lot of rebuilding of trust in those people and those institutions that have been hurt during the last year. And it's going to be a time of recovery as the cryptocurrency market starts building and continues to grow higher. The good news is, guys, Bitcoin is the greatest answer to the biggest financial problem that humanity has ever faced, the inability to store wealth into the future. That's why you should buy Bitcoin. Peace.
Holy cow, you're at the end of the video. You're one of the good ones. I give you a thumbs up. If you want to give us a thumbs up, make sure you do that. And if you're not subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, if you really want extra bonus points, you can comment what you think down below. That's all we got. See you next time.